When a convoy of black luxury SUVs pulled up to my small suburban diner, I assumed a wealthy VIP had taken a wrong turn. Then a woman stepped out in a tailored Italian coat, flanked by bodyguards and high-priced attorneys. Her name was Eleanor Vance, one of the wealthiest tech moguls in the country. She didn't come to order coffee. She slammed a manila folder onto my counter, containing birth records, private DNA results, and a certified check for $5 million. She looked me in the eye and said, "I believe you have my daughter. Take the check and walk away, or my legal team will ensure you lose everything." 18 years ago, I rescued a starving 4-year-old girl begging outside a train station in the freezing rain. Now, her billionaire biological mother was here to reclaim her, unaware of the dark truth that led to her child's abandonment. My name is Claire Morgan. I'm 38 years old today, but whenever November arrives with its biting wind, I'm pulled right back to the night that changed everything. I was barely 20, exhausted and surviving on double shifts at a downtown Chicago bakery, walking toward the train station in the pouring rain. That was when I saw her. Curled beside a rusted steel pillar under the dim station lights was a tiny 4-year-old girl. Her oversized coat was soaked through, her shoes had holes, and she held a paper coffee cup with 2 damp pennies inside. Her lips were blue, her dark eyes wide with terrified silence. No one stopped. People just hurried past, shielding their umbrellas from the cold. I knelt beside her, wrapped my dry woolen scarf around her shaking shoulders, and asked where her parents were. She only whispered one word: lost. I couldn't leave her. I took her straight to the police precinct, expecting frantic parents to rush through the doors at any moment. But hours turned into days, and days into months. No missing person report was ever filed. No one came looking for the little girl, who finally told social workers her name was Maya. When the state placed her into the foster system, I made a promise to that frightened child. I took extra night shifts, cleared every rigorous background check, and fought through the exhaustive foster-to-adopt process. 2 years later, a judge slammed his gavel down, and Maya officially became my daughter. The 18 years that followed were built on sweat, late-night arithmetic, and an abundance of love. Being a single mother in my 20s wasn't glamorous. There were winters when the heating went out, and we wore our winter coats to bed, turning our living room into an indoor camping adventure to keep Maya laughing. Every spare dollar I earned went straight into her future. Eventually, through years of 16-hour workdays and relentless penny pinching, I managed to secure a small loan and open Morgan's Corner, a modest roadside diner just outside the city. It smelled of fresh cinnamon and dark roast coffee, but more than that, it was the foundation that kept a roof over our heads. Maya grew into a remarkable young woman, fiercely intelligent, kind-hearted, and endlessly observant. She remembered what it felt like to have nothing, which made her value everything. She didn't just survive. She thrived, earning a full academic scholarship to study business administration at the State University. At 22, she would still come by the diner on weekends, tying an apron around her waist to bus tables and pour coffee whenever the breakfast rush hit. Customers loved her bright smile, but what made my chest ache with pride was her unwavering loyalty. Whenever people commented on how hard we worked, Maya would wrap her arms around my neck and say, "Mom carried me through the storm. Now it's my turn to make sure she never gets wet." We were an unbreakable team. The Tuesday morning that shattered our quiet life began like any other until 3 obsidian black Cadillac Escalades rolled into our diner's cracked asphalt parking lot. Heads turned as 4 imposing men in dark suits stepped out, securing the perimeter before opening the rear door of the middle vehicle. A woman emerged in a razor-sharp charcoal cashmere coat, exuding the kind of wealth that owned city skylines. I recognized her instantly from business magazines. Eleanor Vance, CEO of Vance Enterprises and one of the most ruthless tech moguls in North America. She walked into Morgan's Corner with measured steps, her designer heels clicking against the linoleum. Her steel gray eyes scanned the vinyl booths with undisguised disdain before locking onto mine behind the counter. "Claire Morgan," she said, her voice smooth and devoid of warmth. She didn't offer a greeting. Instead, She placed a sleek black leather folder on the counter, snapping it open with a flick of her manicured fingers. Inside lay certified DNA documents, birth certificates, and a certified cashier's check made out to my name for $5 million. I am Maya's biological mother, Eleanor stated, as if announcing a corporate acquisition. 18 years ago, circumstances forced us apart. Now the arrangement ends. That check is compensation for your services. You will sign these non-disclosure agreements, pack your things, and cut all contact immediately. My breath caught in my throat, but I kept my voice steady. Maya is my legally adopted daughter. She isn't merchandise you can buy back. Eleanor leaned closer, a cold smile touching her lips. Take the money and walk away quietly, Ms. Morgan. Because if you force my hand, my legal team will tie you up in court until you lose your diner, your home, and every cent you own. I pushed the $5 million check right back across the counter. You can take your money and your threats, Ms. Vance, and get out of my diner. Eleanor's eyes flared with icy fury as she collected her papers. You will regret this, she whispered, turning on her heel and sweeping out the door as swiftly as she had arrived. My hands were shaking as I locked the diner doors and immediately called Maya. An hour later, my daughter was sitting across from me in a corner booth, staring at the business card Eleanor had left behind. Maya's face was pale, but her jaw was set firm. I don't care how much money she has, Mom, Maya said, taking my trembling hands in hers. You raised me. You are my mother. But something doesn't add up. How does a billionaire simply lose a 4-year-old child at a train station? That question sparked a fire in both of us. Over the next 48 hours, we dug deep into digital archives, public court records, and 18-year-old financial newspapers from Chicago. Maya used her university database access to track the timeline of Vance Enterprises. What we uncovered was staggering. 18 years ago, Eleanor hadn't been a grieving mother searching desperately for a lost child. During the exact month Maya was found shivering at that train station, Eleanor was in Geneva finalizing a hostile multi-billion-dollar corporate merger that secured her control of the family dynasty. An archived board meeting memo from that very week revealed a frantic struggle for succession. Eleanor's father had established a strict family trust dictating that Eleanor would lose her executive voting shares unless she produced a direct biological heir upon turning 55. Eleanor turned 55 next week. Maya wasn't a long-lost daughter to her. She was a legal key. The summons came the following afternoon. Eleanor sent a private courier with an invitation to the penthouse suite of the Grand Regency Hotel, demanding a private meeting with Maya to rectify the past. Maya looked at me, squared her shoulders, and said, "We're going together." When the penthouse doors opened, Eleanor sat behind an expansive mahogany table overlooking the city skyline, flanked by 3 high-powered corporate attorneys. The room was designed to intimidate, filled with modern glass sculptures and cold marble floors. "Maya, darling," Eleanor purred, rising with an outstretched hand adorned with diamonds. "Look at you. You carry the Vance elegance. I've arranged a trust fund, a luxury apartment in Manhattan, and an executive track position at headquarters. You never have to step foot in a greasy diner again." Maya didn't move. She kept her hands firmly in her coat pockets. "Why didn't you look for me 18 years ago?" Eleanor sighed, dabbing an imaginary tear with a silk handkerchief. "It was a tragic accident. A corrupt nanny took you, panicked, and disappeared. I spent years in despair." "That's a lie," I interrupted, stepping forward and placing a manila folder onto the mahogany table. Eleanor's lead attorney frowned, but Eleanor's eyes narrowed to slits as Maya pulled out the archived corporate documents we had uncovered. "You weren't searching for me," Maya said, her voice echoing off the glass walls. "You were in Switzerland closing a $6 billion acquisition. You left me with distant associates who couldn't be bothered with a toddler, and when I wandered off into the winter storm, reporting me missing would have triggered a public scandal that jeopardized your merger." Maya leaned across the table, pointing to the final highlighted clause. "And you didn't hire private investigators to find me out of maternal love. Your father's trust stipulates you lose majority control of Vance Enterprises next Tuesday unless your biological heir signs over their proxy voting rights. You don't want a daughter, Eleanor. You want my signature? The silence in the penthouse was suffocating. For a second, Eleanor's polished mask slipped, revealing pure, unvarnished panic. Her lead attorney quickly leaned in, whispering urgently into her ear before adjusting his gold cufflinks and stepping forward. "Let's be pragmatic, young lady," the lawyer said, his tone slick and condescending. "Regardless of past circumstances, you are the sole biological heir to the Vance fortune. If you refuse to cooperate, we have already prepared a motion to challenge the legality of the original adoption. We will claim jurisdictional irregularities, subject Ms. Morgan to prolonged fraud investigations, and drag this through every public court until her diner and assets are seized to pay legal fees." He slid a leather-bound agreement across the mahogany surface, along with an open platinum fountain pen. "Sign the proxy declaration. You receive an immediate $10 million settlement, and Ms. Morgan gets to keep her humble little life." Eleanor smoothed her designer dress, regaining her haughty composure. "Be sensible, Maya. Think of what you're throwing away. She can give you cheap pancakes and a mountain of student debt. I can give you the world." Maya looked down at the pen, then at the document that represented more wealth than most people could fathom in 10 lifetimes. Slowly, deliberately, she picked up the papers. Then, looking Eleanor straight in the eyes, Maya tore the entire stack clean down the center. The sound of ripping parchment echoed like a gunshot through the suite. She tore the pieces in half again and dropped the confetti-like scraps directly onto Eleanor's spotless table. "You left a 4-year-old child to freeze to death on a train platform for stock options," Maya said, her voice ringing with absolute clarity. "Claire Morgan worked 3 jobs, ruined her credit, and gave up her youth so I would never go to bed hungry or afraid. Blood is just biology, Eleanor. Loyalty, sacrifice, and real love make a mother. I will never sign your papers, and I renounce every single penny of your name." Eleanor sat frozen as the shreds of her billion-dollar contract drifted across the mahogany table. Without a word, Maya linked her arm through mine, turned her back on the Vance fortune, and walked out of the penthouse. The fallout was swift. The following Tuesday, the Vance Enterprises board held their mandatory vote. Without Maya's proxy signature, Eleanor was officially stripped of her majority control and ousted from the executive board she had sacrificed everything to keep. News of her past neglect hit the financial presses, sealing the end of her corporate reign. Back at our modest diner, life returned with a sweetness we had never known before. Maya graduated at the top of her class that spring. Together, using a small grant she earned and the savings we rebuilt, we expanded the back of Morgan's Corner into a safe community kitchen that provides warm coats and hot meals to runaway youth and struggling kids every single night. Standing beside Maya behind that counter, watching her laugh as she pours coffee for our regulars, I know that true wealth isn't found in stock portfolios or luxury penthouses. It's found in the love you build, the promises you keep, and the family you choose to protect. What would you have done if you were in Maya's shoes? Would you have taken the billions, or stood by the mother who raised you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and tell me which city you're watching from today. Thank you for listening to our story.